while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Hi, this is Granny, and I love that song. Good Monday night, February. Last week we came to you, it was January, February the 7th, 2022. I played that song because several years ago, I think I told you guys I had a chance to be involved with one of the local high schools, and they had a Black Student Union. And so we did several plays for Black History Month, and we used that song. We were able to get together a group of guys, and they danced around the stage like they had been on a plantation. And we had a Caucasian student that was part of the Black Student Union. Uh, he so graciously agreed. He didn't want to do it, but we were trying to demonstrate to the students what had been transpiring in the lives of people that looked like us. And so I never forgot that song. Good Monday night. Again, this is Granny. Two things I need to do, maybe three. I need to apologize to some of you because you think I've gotten off of reading Granny's old hands. I did not do that. I did not do that. That has never been the intent. But when Black History started coming up, I said to the team, could we take a pause? We have two chapters left, and I promise you, as they say, breath stay in my body, we're going to do chapters 7 and 8 as soon as we get through Black History Month, if you will allow me. Last week, we introduced you to Phyllis Wheatley, and so many people have told us they didn't even know anything about her. So this week, remember, Granny's on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and we also now have a Facebook Reading Granny's Old Hands page. And we have 80 persons that have joined. We sent out invites and they joined, so they're following us. And I try to post every few days something so they'll know that we just didn't create the page to get numbers. We want substance. If there's something that you would like to talk to me about, I'm open. I'm going to tell you the truth. As they say, I'm going to tell you the truth on me. As difficult as it may be, I will. Now, with that said, we wanted to talk about two Williams tonight. I'll try not to bring you information that's untrue, but I did read certain documents. So if it is not true, then the historians that brought this information to us have given us incorrect information. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm going to put a disclaimer in there because somebody will say, no, no, hold on just a little bit longer is a true song. It was written by Cleophas Robinson, and you can find that on YouTube. I just wanted you to hear a snippet of it. So, as people of color and other people too, we're still finding reasons to hold on just a little bit longer. So, here we go. I'll try to look up more. We had worked out a system where I could be eye level with the camera, and we have shot this 4 times, and for some reason, it's not syncing like the team thought. So forgive me. I'm going to try to look up more. Here we go. Today we reflect on the grim chapter in our nation's history, the beginning of a 400-year story filled with tragedy, inequality, resilience, and survival. I like that word, resilience. The transatlantic slave trade, which reduced Africans to commodities, and you know what a commodity is, would endure for centuries and ultimately shape our country. Okay? Most of you already know this, the origins of Black history. When did Black History Month start and who started this? And we know this. We did learn this. It says it was Carter G. Woodson. He's called the father of Black history. He was the first one that set out in 1926 to designate a time to promote, educate people about Black history and culture. And this is according to W. Marvin Delaney. He is a historian and the president of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Now, I did not know this. It said, I had no idea, and I keep telling you how old I am. President Gerald Ford, during the 1960 Negro History Week, Negro, evolved into Black History Month. And in 1976, then President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month during the country's bicentennial. We learn something new every day. As I said earlier, we wanted to feature William Tucker. We have the opportunity to share with you two poems that we wrote that dealt with William Tucker. And we did these at East Lansing High School. And I'm so proud to say today, if you called my son Michael D. Starks, over 25 years ago, Michael recited this poem at East Lansing High School. He's done it at several churches. And I called him a couple weeks ago because I couldn't find it. And I said, Mike, can you help your mother out? And he, right away, this is what we wrote in honor of William Tucker. Battered, bruised, oft times misused, crammed in ships like animals for sale. Jamestown, Virginia became one of the holding cells where the slaves arrived. No freedom in sight. Always willing to put up a struggle or a fight. I was born in 1624. My name is William Tucker. I was the first African American born in these United States of America. Michael did that. The second poem, a young guy from the church when we did this play, his name is Justin. He memorized this, and this was kind of like an answer to Mike's poem. And it just said, Who will tell my story? And this is how it goes. It says, Now that we've arrived, our money's in the bank, cars in the garages, homes in the suburbs, loans in default, churches for sale, souls rotten in a different type of cell, still battered, bruised, oft time misused. Who will tell our story now? God gave that to me as He did the poem that my son recited. And if you think about it, those two poems are relevant today. We've arrived, but a lot of us want somebody to tell our story now, and the story doesn't get told if you don't know your story yourself to tell. And so I'm so honored to bring those poems back out. We had to search, man. 25, 30 years ago, I saved them on a hard drive, and I couldn't find them. But the good Lord, and I'm saying the good Lord, Becky, showed me how to navigate. I had to go all the way back to 2000, and I didn't even know this. I think it was 2010 where I had sent the poems to other persons, and that's how I found them. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about William Tucker, and I'm going to try to look up as much as I can because the system that we worked with so faithfully, and we did a dry run yesterday. We did a dry run yesterday, and it was perfect, but I just thought, you know what? We're going to try to look up as much as we can. William Tucker was the first person of African ancestry born in the 13 British colonies. His birth symbolizes the beginning of a distinct African American identity along the eastern coast of what would eventually become the United States. Can you believe that? This, you can Google it. Historians have written about William Tucker, so this is not anything Granny fabricated. This is true. And when I found out he was the first African American born, I thought, do we know this? Do we really know this? Okay. William Tucker was born in 1624 near Jamestown, Virginia, the son of Antonia and Isabel, two African indentured servants. Historians do not know much of William Tucker's life due to the fragmented pieces of primary sources material available for contemporary style study. Sometimes you can get secondary sources, and sometimes you can get primary. So this historian that got this information to us, he was honest enough to say the facts of his life are fragmented. But I do know that if you do a Google search or you go to the library and look up William Tucker, they will tell you this. According to the 1625 Virginia census, 22 Africans lived in Virginia at the same time as Tucker's birth. The first 20 of these Africans arrived in 1619, and all of them worked under the indentured servitude contracts. Wow, they were beholden to somebody else. We know what that means. These men and women were not slaves because Virginia's General Assembly had not yet worked out the terms of enslavement for the colony. Consequently, the first Africans in Virginia received the same rights, listen at this, duties, privileges, responsibilities, and punishment as their white indentured counterparts from Great Britain. Now, here they are in the United States, but Great Britain still had somewhat control over what went on. They also worked under the same terms, and many, but not all, were given land at the end of their period of indentured service. In fact, they and their descendants became the nucleus of the free black population which existed in Virginia prior to the Civil War. And we know what the Civil War stood for, and we know what it did for people of color. William Tucker's parents were among this group of 22 first Africans. They worked for Captain William Tucker. Now, let me say that again. They worked for Captain William Tucker. That should tell you something. The Virginia envoy to the Pamunkey Indians and his wife, Miss Mary Tucker. Anthony and Isabella participated in the establishment of Elizabeth City, County, Virginia, which is now the city of Hampton in 1634. And we know about Hampton, Virginia. In the early 1620s, Captain Tucker allowed the couple to wed through the practice, though the practice was violated in English customs for indentured service. He allowed them to get married. Whoopie-doo. And not that that's a bad thing, but they had to get permission. Nowadays, you know what we do. You know what we do concerning marriages. And I'm not mocking it, guys forbid, but it just fascinated me that these grown people, even though they were taken from their homes and they were indentured servants, had to get permission to get married. Wow. Anthony and Isabella married at least a year before giving birth to their son, William Tucker, in 1624. Many facts regarding Tucker's life remain a mystery. The historical record did not reveal his personal experiences in Virginia, whether he married or had children, or the date of his death. What was known was Tucker was baptized into the Anglican Church and that he was named after his family's master. His parents couldn't even give him a name, guys. And we come up with all kind of names for our kids, but his parents couldn't give him a name. He was named after their master. Woo, Captain William Tucker. Young William Tucker was counted as one of Captain Tucker's 17 servants. Oh my goodness. Let's take a break. So much that we have to be thankful for. So much. We're going to read a little bit about the other William that I wanted to share with you. And I did research it, and you get different facts, you get different persons' opinions. Some people say it's not true, some people say it was fabricated, but even if it was fabricated, there's some truth in the contents of this message. And I've read this 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and every now and then I'll go back and revisit it because I want to make sure that I don't participate in what this man, Willie Lynch, proposed concerning how you treat slaves and how you control them. I'm going to try not to cry. If I do, I got my little sponge to wipe the tears because our kids don't know this. They're adults that don't know this. But it's called The Making of a Slave, the untold story, 1712. And I'm going to try not to cry. I'm going to try to look up as much as I can. And this is from him, Willie Lynch. There's a book out. You can look it up. He has a PDF. Well, he doesn't, but historians has made a PDF. So if you looked it up, it's called the Willie Lynch letter. And this is what it says. Gentlemen, I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the Colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program were implemented. I'm going to keep going. I caught a whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple of miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hanging, you are having uprising. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long for maximum profit. Look at this. You want to make money off of them. Just look at this. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what the problem is? I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. However, I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. Help me hold back the tears. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if it is installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take these simple little list of differences and think about them. I need a moment. We have no idea what has been perpetuated to keep us down. We have no idea the schemes and the plans that persons that have hatred in their heart have concocted. And yet, some of us give into it, some of us play into it. He says, on the top of my list is age, but it is there only because it starts with a A. The second letter, color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size, plantation, status on plantations, attitudes of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or on the hill, east, west, north, or south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of the differences, guys, listen at this. I shall give you an outline of action. But before I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on, and you will become self refueling and self generations for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Now, this was written back in 1712, guys. This is 2020. Us, I'm saying us. We need to know that we pit ourselves against each other. The brown bag in Louisiana, short hair, light skin, uh, tall, big. We're still perpetuating this man's foolishness. We do it to ourselves. We kill each other. Half of us won't speak to each other. We think because we got biscuits and gravy and a two-car garage that we're better than the neighbor next door. We got to wake up. This is 2022, and what COVID virus didn't do, we do it to ourselves. And so I wanted to share this with you. I talked to the team about it, and it's hard for me to bring this because I'm 71 and I see it over and over again. I see it in us adults, trying not to cry. I see it in our kids. And so Granny wanted to share this, and you say, what does that have to do with Granny's old hands? I got to raise my hands more. I got to raise them more. I got to come out of another closet. It says, don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male and the young black male against the old black male. You must use dark skinned slaves versus light skinned slaves and light skinned slaves versus dark skinned slave. You must use the female versus the male and the male versus the female. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks, but it is necessary your slaves trust and depend on us. The must love, respect, and trust only us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. And here's what he says. Gentlemen, these kits are the keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensively for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. And then he ends it with saying, thank you. Mm. All I can say, different historians have their opinion. Different ones have written about this. It was shared in school. A lot of schools don't want you to share it. Even a lot of us, people of color, don't want to hear about it. We think it doesn't apply to us, but it does apply to us. I've walked in rooms, I won't take this off, with my bald head, with people that look like me, and they turn their head. And I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? I haven't even said anything, but I walked in the room. And this dark, beautiful complexion, to some people is offensive, but I love it. I thank God for it. I've been in meetings, guys, where I had to be the presenter. And some of the people that didn't look like me had no idea that I knew what I knew because I didn't make a show. I just sat down quietly. And when it came my turn to speak, it was like, oh, she know a little something. We got to stop all of this, be it black or white. We got to find ways to destroy this theory among ourselves first. We got to find ways to tell our kids it's not about the clothes, it's not about the Jordans, it's not about, we got to love each other. And unless it comes from the inside out, somebody else 200 years from now will have a second Willie Lynch letter. And it won't be because we're in slavery per se, but our minds, people. We got to get rid of our thinking. I told you last week, I got my Black History shirt on. I told you last week that shelf life is getting closer and closer and closer to when some of us older persons, we will be leaving here. This is the last poem that we wrote, and it's kind of like an answer to how do we change this Willie Lynch thing. And it just says they tell us to dream. And this is one that Celestine Starks was able to have the kids at East Lansing High School and their different performances at church. It says they tell us to dream. They tell us to dream. They tell us to reach for the stars. They tell us that in that grand old by and by, it will get better. They tell us to dream. They tell us to reach for the stars, but they fail to tell us who it was that hung the stars. They also fail to tell us how to dream, black or white. So we asked them what color they dreamed in. That signifies they had been right. Because the fight gets tougher with each new child born without a sight. They tell us to dream, not in black nor in white. They tell us to reach for the stars, yet they fail to tell us who hung the stars. We are a new generation of dreamers, dreaming in the blood of Jesus, conquering the fight of the blacks and the whites. Some handed a greater sacrifice like Jesus Christ because it will always be his blood directing us to do what's right. They tell us to dream, sometimes in black, sometimes in white. This is Granny coming to you on this Black History Night. A lot of things are going on across the United States, a lot of programs. We just wanted to give you a tidbit from Granny's perspective. And yes, Granny is still raising her hands. Granny's still coming out of the closet because I have to check myself every day and make sure that secretly I'm not demonstrating behaviors that's ungodly to anybody. Even though you may want to put your dukes up, you may want to tell somebody off, but I have to go inside, Granny, and raise my hands and say, Celeste, it's not worth it. Let's treat everybody, if possible, with respect. Let's treat everybody with love. Greatest commandment, that ye love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that means there's some things in our families with our own skin that we have issues with. But Becky, by the grace of God and his mercy, and as we come out of more closets as people, Willie Lynch won't have nothing on us. We'll unify, we'll change this world, the time that some of us have left. We'll change the perception that persons have of us. When you walk in a room, nobody should judge you by the color of your skin. Martin Luther King told us that. Nobody should look at you and wonder, where she come from? Who is she? This is Granny said we're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Granny is so grateful that she gets to come again. So grateful that she gets to share a portion of her Black history and who she is. You see the shirt? I am Black history. They had to get pillows for me to sit upon. We're gonna have to get some new equipment in here, but I'm so grateful. I can't say that enough. This Monday night, here come them tears. I told you. This Monday night. Y'all remember this little old powder spurt? Old people can't look at that. I carry this. This Monday night, it's been a blessing coming before you. Like us on YouTube, like us on Facebook. You can join our Facebook page and just tell somebody something new that maybe you didn't know and maybe they didn't know. This is Granny again, thanking my team, thanking everybody that has um, said things, made this possible. I even want to say this again, people. I have, thank you, give it to me. I have the book ready for our next chapter. So when we finish Black History Month, I promise you, we're going to get back to Granny's old hands. Granny's coming out of the closet. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good rest of your Monday. Tuesday, I hope where you are, you won't have snow days like we did. We didn't have school. We had a professional development day, and then we didn't have school, and it was like a breath of fresh air. This is Granny saying good night. God bless you. See you next week. And remember, wherever you are, raise your hands. When you raise your hands, you're saying, I surrender. You're saying, ooh, William Tucker's family, even though they were bought here, even though they couldn't even name him themselves, he had a life. Thank you for joining us. Good night and be blessed. This is Granny O'Han saying, see you next week. Bye. Video. Okay, no, it's